Jai Hind and welcome to Dev Talks. This is Aadi. I have with me, as you can all see, Maj Gen Sudhakar Jee, who's taken us through the global threat challenges across the region and, of course, focusing towards India. The next subject that we will talk about is the Indian Ocean. Remember, India is the only country in the world that has an ocean named after it. That has to be very significant. I'm not saying we own that place, but still, it is important for our territorial integrity and national security. There are a few things which are happening in this Indian Ocean region, with China suddenly focusing into this area, trying to get a foothold in this area, and of course, the world powers trying to play a game around in this place to contain China. Let's all understand what this region is all about, what does it entail, and how things will go forward. So, thank you so much for joining me today, sir. But the past few series that we've done on various different things, for example, the security challenges to India, the Central Asian challenges, the West Asian challenges. One thing that is coming out very, very clearly, that one of the biggest threats to global peace and security is coming out to be China with its expanding footprint all across the world. So before I, hand it over to you, I'd like to, ask you at the outset about a basic geographical description of the Indian Ocean region. I'm sure most of the people know about it, and of course the strategic importance of this entire region, sir. Over to you, sir. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you, Aadi. We are meeting almost after 2 weeks, and once again, thank you very much for offering this opportunity to me, inviting me to your channel to cover the next part, that is the Indian Ocean region. And like you rightly, you have asked the question, but only amendment I would like to make is that most of us take geography for granted. More than geography, history is actually neglected. Unfortunately, I must admit myself, being an ex-army officer, I am also a poor student of geography. Nobody knows and understood the peninsular India jutting out of the mainland by almost about 3,200 kilometers. What meaning and implication does it have into, jutting out into the Indian Ocean? Ladies and gentlemen, so far we have covered about the geostrategic interest, geostrategic importance, fact file, as also we have gone on to discuss about the 21st century being that of Asia, the epicenter of the global terrorism being in Asia. And also we have discussed about the global strategic environment, followed by the extended neighborhood. In the extended neighborhood, we started with Central Asian Republic, and I had clarified that Afghanistan, although it forms part of extended neighborhood, we shall be discussing Afghanistan as part of immediate neighborhood. Thereafter, we have come on to the Middle East or the West Asia, and after that, we have come to Indian Ocean region. To start with, let me very quickly bring to the notice of our audience that the Indian Ocean, I have too many actually reference materials that I've been researching on the subject. It is the third largest ocean in the world, ladies and gentlemen. It occupies about 20% of the Earth's surface. Unlike Pacific and Atlantic Ocean, please don't mind, I'll be moving my head from left to right. I have a number of those small purchases taken out from books and encyclopedias. You see, Pacific and Atlantic Oceans, they extend from pole to pole, whereas Indian Ocean is landlocked, with its north being bounded by the Indian subcontinent, west by Arabia and Africa, and in east by Southwest Asia, Southeast Asia, and the subcontinent and Australia. Well, all I'm saying is the extent of Indian Ocean actually is from east coast of Africa to the west coast of Australia. You can see the large expanse that actually covers the entire. It is the only ocean, like Aadi has brought out, which has been named after a country, and a fact that we should never take it for granted. The reason for naming it so was not only because the Indian landmass dominates the ocean, with its greatest peninsular landmass jutting about I would say 3,200 odd kilometers from the mainland into the ocean. At some places, or most of the places, you will find 2,000 kilometers. The actual distance over which it is jutting out is 3,200 kilometers into the sea. but also because of the fact that the Indian mariners and the trade of goods and valuables from India dominated its water for most of recorded human history. With this, ladies and gentlemen, I also wish to bring out the second part, which is the most important part, the sea lanes in the Indian Ocean region. The Indian Ocean's geography gives rise to the weather phenomena. Now, this is a historical relevance which must be kept in mind. The southwest monsoon flowing or blowing in a particular season, and after that season is over, you have northeast directional winds blowing from northeast towards southwest. So, the trade in earlier times, those sail based ships, they used to actually make use of the direction of the wind to actually set across Indian Ocean, go carry out trading, and make use of the northeasterly direction of wind to sail back to their start point. So I would only bring out only one issue, that the Indian Ocean geography is the only ocean, ladies and gentlemen, which gives rise to the weather phenomena of the monsoons, with its peculiar phenomena of wind patterns and ocean currents that reverse their flow during alternating seasons. Ladies and gentlemen, for the subcontinent, this meant two seasons of rainfall. For sail ships that traversed the seas prior to the advent of these stream ships, it meant that they could travel from west to east during the southwest monsoons and go back a few months later during the northeast monsoons. A few figures illustrate the imports to global commerce and well being. Over 6,000 ships they transit the Strait of Malacca every year. It is not 6,000, it is 60,000 ships. And also, the 17 million barrels of oil transit through the Strait of Hormuz every day. What it means is that almost about 60% of the global trade, ladies and gentlemen, flows through this area, and 70% of the world's petroleum traffic originates from the Indian Ocean region. This is something I wanted to highlight. And the region has vast mineral, non mineral, human resources critical for keeping the global economy moving. Another important issue I wish to share with our viewers is that the distance, the sea lanes extend from Strait of Hormuz to Strait of Malacca over a distance of 5,325 kilometers, which is generally covered over a period of 5 to 7 days. Generally, 5 to 7 days of sailing. And of late, this has been subjected, as you know, past 10, 20 years or so, this particular distance of the stretch of Indian Ocean has witnessed lots of piracy activities at all times. Somehow they have been brought under control from the Horn of Africa down south, even right up to Sri Lanka and beyond that towards Southeast Asia. They are under control as of now, but off and on, they keep actually erupting time and again. Another issue that I wanted to say is that 33% of the bulk cargo of the world trade by sea, passes through Indian Ocean. 50% of the total container shipments in the world, they pass through this particular ocean, Indian Ocean. So I'm trying to highlight the relevance and the importance, ladies and gentlemen. And any disruption in supplies will lead to serious implications on the economy, not only of India, but all the nation states which are dependent on the energy security through sea lanes of communication. Second, although I have highlighted piracy, arms, and narcotic trafficking is a cause of concern not only for India but all the nation states which are there are almost about 39 of them nation states which are called as the littoral states. Any change in security environment will affect regional stability and directly impinge on India's interest. With this, I take the audience to, ladies and gentlemen, one very, very important point. These are called as this sea lane. You know, good old days, the Lord Curzon, the former Viceroy of India, he had postulated the control of the major choke points. He had selected a few choke points through which the sea lanes of communication pass or run. They had occupied these choke points so as to control access into the Indian Ocean. They means the British Empire, and by establishing outposts of the colonies at these choke points in 19th century. I'll just quickly go over these choke points very rapidly. The major 9 choke points connects to two other major oceans. They include Strait of Hormuz, Suez Canal, Strait of Bab el Mandeb, Malacca Strait, Lombok Strait, Sunda Strait. 6-degree channel is between Maldives and Lakshadweep, as you all know. 9-degree channel is across, if I'm not wrong, is it just below Sri Lanka, I suppose? Sri Lanka, Cape of Good Hope. These are the few 9 major choke points, ladies and gentlemen. With that, before I go into the strategic rivalry or the activities in Indian Ocean region, ladies and gentlemen, back to you, Adi, for any point, any value addition from your side, please.
As a matter of fact, yes, sir. One of the biggest things that I'd like to bring about here is that world trade, as per se, depends on the Indian Ocean to a large extent. One of the things that is to be noted is the factor that a lot of the oil, which basically comes in from the oil producing region nations of the Middle East, is dependent on stability of the Indian Ocean for it to actually reach various different parts of the world. You know, if, for example, you mentioned about the piracy and stuff like that, this became a huge issue at one time,
Yeah.
and it threatened the stability of trade in that entire area. Of course, with India and China being a part of this Indian Ocean region, the the size of the commerce itself is very, very large. So obviously, as the next subject that you want to discuss is strategic rivalry. Obviously, with the Chinese being a little more aggressive, I think there's going to be some amount of friction in this entire area, and that's why we see the formation of the Quad and so on and so forth. So that'll be interesting to get into the details of. Over to you again.
Thank you, Adi. From here on, I go on to the next point. That is the strategic situation in the Indian Ocean region. Ladies and gentlemen, before we go into that, I'll just read out few lines from a very important book written by Sardar K.M. Parikar. He's a famous author, a diplomat, and historian of repute. And in his seminal work, India and the Indian Ocean, and India never lost her independence until she lost command of the seas around her in the first decade of the 16th century, he writes. I would conclude He says, I would conclude by saying that it is instructive to remember that it was the flexibility, mobility, and versatility of maritime power which enabled small foreign forces to enslave a massive subcontinent, India, which was 20 times larger in size than England and its population and resources much more plentiful. That this area or the Indian Ocean region is characterized by several flashpoints due to unresolved land and maritime borders. Further details you are well read, you will be able to correlate. I have only picked up important issues from a huge volume of research documents. Another issue I wish to highlight, only the important ones, not many of them, because the time has to be kept in mind. You see, many have failed. There are many failed and failing states around Indian Ocean in its periphery, and the presence of fundamentalism and the terrorism in the number of littoral states. Subsequently, we'll count the number of states. You can correlate what I mean by this. There is a maritime domain which is witnessing crimes such as running, drug trafficking, and people smuggling. Ladies and gentlemen, in addition to all this, this is actually impacted by flow of trade and energy. There is a historic peculiarities and animosities of the Middle East, the development potential of Africa, which has missed the attention of the world, and the presence of erstwhile colonial powers and many more factors shaping the geopolitical landscape in the region. But the most important point, ladies and gentlemen, is that most of these countries, being small and less developed, with internal governance challenges, they either align with or acquiesce with extra regional powers. You will understand why am I highlighting this point, particularly with reference to China. And further on, I would say that Indian Ocean region is further characterized by three major powers, accounting for nearly half of the global economy vying for influence. Now, who are these three major powers? India, China, and United States. These are the three major powers. You all have to be very, very clear. And each of them are viewing the region through their own strategic frameworks. India has the security and growth for all in the region, which is called as Saga. Nobody other than our Honorable Prime Minister. He had actually given this acronym. And a combination of its look east, which is now assumed the profile and status of act east gradually, and the think west policies. I have recommended in this channel only that instead of looking west, we should start acting west. Let's see what turn and when it takes. With the mini code having come about, I'm sure in times ahead, India also is going to give due impetus to this particular framework. Also, with that, ladies and gentlemen, China has the maritime Silk Road, half of the BRI. US has the Indo-Pacific strategy, also known as the free and open Indo-Pacific. That has become the central theme, by the way. The entire global attention has shifted to the South China Sea. And what is it they're actually contesting? They want to achieve the freedom of navigation as per the UNCLOS. Okay, and with that, also they have natural successor to the Asia Pacific rebalance. The biggest change in the Indian Ocean region strategic environment is being caused by the China. Our geographic position and our familiarity with the Indian Ocean, or our soft power capability and the cordial relations we share with almost all the countries in the region, with the exception of Pakistan, gives us unmatched and unparalleled advantages over any extra regional rivalry or entity. With that, gentlemen, I come to the next point before we touch upon the flashpoint. Back to you, Adi, if you have anything to make any addition or comments, please.
As a matter of fact, I mentioned this in the introduction itself. So China is going to play a big role in terms of the stability of this entire region, and with their growing ambitions with regards to breaking out into the second ocean for them to claim themselves as a superpower. The Indian Ocean region is going to become one of the biggest playing factors, because the Pacific is something that they've been trying out, which is the first ocean that they want to break out into. And the second ocean that the Chinese want to break out into is the Indian Ocean. And they've been trying it from various different points, starting from Gwadar, starting from, they tried their hands with Iran. They are making that port in the deep water port in Kaikfu. So it's quite a challenge, because the minute the Chinese are able to break out into the free blue water, that's the day that they can actually claim themselves to be a superpower. So that's going to be a little interesting. Actually, also this particular situation raises a bit of a fire alarm in all global powers. So it's created a global playground for the major powers around the world. And today we see countries like Germany, which are really far away, had good relations with China, also sending their warships into this entire region, sir. So why don't you take us forward and tell us what are the flashpoints and what are the global footprints that we can see in this place, sir?
Yeah, Adi, very, very nicely you have put across. In fact, yesterday only I was there in one of the panel discussions. General Dushant Singh, very eminent, I would say, scholar, senior officers, he brought out statistics to the effect that Pakistan, as on today, has got 18 plus 8 have been given by China submarines, which also includes the nuclear submarines. Total 26. In fact, they caused a turbulence in my statistical information or the data that I have. Plus, China itself has got 68. So 68 plus 18, when you total up, it comes to 86. 86 is a big number. Not only Indian Ocean, they will bloody play havoc all over. The kind of stealth they have. They have nuclear submarines. You see, one of them has recently been given to Pakistan, and you can well imagine. So, with that, a few quick points before you come to the flash points, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to also share certain issues which are new developments which are taking place because of Middle East. Over the past decades, several new players have become active in the Indian Ocean region also. Who are these new players? What kind of activity are they indulging in? Let's take a very brief look at all these. Ladies and gentlemen, you see, these new players, they are making a very significant regional security environment, impacting the security environment and making it much more complex than what it was in the past. And they include the middle powers such as Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, Turkey, and Iran. This is in the one group which had played little or no security role in the Indian Ocean earlier. Okay. Now, besides this, we are also currently seeing a race by these countries to build naval and military bases right across the Horn of Africa. Further, I want to share with our audience is that the immediate imperative behind these moves in the Horn of Africa is the rivalry. There are two separate groups, blocks. Which are these blocks? There is a rivalry which is emerging with, I would say, unseen intensity. Is comprises of two groups, and these groups are essentially the Middle East power bloc of Saudi Arabia, UAE, and Egypt on one side. The other group is Turkey, Iran, and Qatar. You see the complexity. Turkey, Iran, and Qatar. Okay. And the rivalries are also spreading further into the Indian Ocean, so much so our immediate neighborhood is already started getting influenced by this rivalry. How it is happening? You got to keep your eyes and ears open. Next, I'll take you to the next point is large number of different actors in single area will create conflict of interest, especially as there are no general agreements with regard to the Indian Ocean. One. Second, some regional players are positioning themselves for what they see as an inevitable drawdown in US forces in the region. By and large, if you take your mind back, immediately after US had pulled out from Afghanistan, US had made kind of an announcement all over the world in media that it's reducing its footprints from all the bases in the world. Maybe some of the bases would be closed. They have already closed down. My rough count is around 54 bases. Earlier, there used to be a much more number of bases in the past. So, with US on the way to becoming the world's biggest net exporter, oil exporter, because of the shale gas revolution, they have started reducing their footprint. For all you know, in foreseeable future, they may have pulled out completely from the Middle East, less for the developments which are taking place currently in Iran. One never knows whether the JCPO is going to be revived or not. One never knows how Israel, that Abraham Accord, which was initiated at the behest of America, how it is going to pan out. As on today, they have managed to establish successful diplomatic relations with Sudan, with Morocco, with UAE, and Bahrain. These are the four states.
Bahrain.
These are the four states. Yeah, and Saudi Arabia, but they are non-committal. They have not come out in forthright manner. So therefore, let's see how things pan out. But most important thing, our attention has to be on Iran because Iran has a long history up to 1979. You all know what happened in 79 and post 1979. Thereafter, up to 91, things have been evolving and changing in this nation state of Iran, and now the current state and its desire to go nuclear, which the world has been opposing. So, with that, ladies and gentlemen, the confluence of all these factors in pushing Indian Ocean towards a much more multipolar and complex strategic environment is actually creating a number of old and new flashpoints in the region. Therefore, it brings me to the first flashpoint is Pakistan. It's a voluminous document, ladies and gentlemen. I can't share in such a short time frame. The important aspect under Pakistan, which I wish to share with you, is that China has been steadily increasing its ship deployment in the Indian Ocean region over the past decades. They have been holding exercise at the naval ports. The deployment has significantly increased in the recent past with greater coordination with Pakistan Navy. Frequency of Pakistan-China joint naval drills with recent exercises conducted off the Makran coast in January 2020, as also thereafter, it has seen the participation of Chinese conventional submarines for the first time. This is a speedy increase in the frequency of PLA Navy ship visiting Pakistani ports. We are aware that they are also synergizing their intelligence, information gathering capabilities. And ladies and gentlemen, it is also understood that they have bankrolled several overseas deployment of Pakistan naval ships in the recent past. Ladies and gentlemen, one important issue I wanted to share with you is that military relation apart, there are also developments which are taking place in Gwadar. You would have seen in yesterday news how China has managed to infiltrate into the economy and the livelihood of the the indigenous population of Pakistan, how it is impacting the day-to-day livelihood of the people of Pakistan in Balochistan. Particularly, Gwadar was in the limelight yesterday. It would be affecting others because the fishing trawls of China, they have started denying the small fishermen of the coastal areas of Gwadar and Balochistan. So this is just a small example. There are many such examples. There is no employment given by the projects which are launched by Pakistan. The CPEC is not giving any kind of contribution towards the socio-economic development of the Pakistan people. So these are the couple of issues I thought I must share with you. But the next point that I have is that it's very difficult to cover, although in such a short time, is you know about a nation state in West Asia. Last time I think we had discussed, touched upon, is Yemen. Now, in Yemen, the war on Yemen has actually entered its, this is what, sixth, seventh year. It started in 2015, 20, fifth year. This is the sixth year, ladies and gentlemen. And it is in a state of complete anarchy with severe consequences for its civilian population. Essentially, this is a proxy war between, as you know, between Saudi Arabia and Iran. And also, you would have heard about last time I had covered while covering the West Asia is the complete battleground of one central component. That central component of paradigm is space is occupied by Shias and the Sunnis. So this is the battle between the Shias and the Sunnis. Now it has already dragged in several countries to include the US, UAE, and Pakistan. So far, it has not flared up into a regional conflict, particularly between Iran and Saudi Arabia, but it has driven a schism between those who are supportive of the military actions against the Houthis and those who do not wish to get involved in such a campaign. These differences in approach among major external powers could create a situation similar to that in Syria and increase the possibility of Yemen heading towards greater chaos and instability, ladies and gentlemen. With that, I go into the second flashpoint or the second block of second flashpoint. Before that, go back to Aadi for any value addition, please.
It's innocuous that one talks about Pakistan as a flashpoint. So it's quite a funny character because with what is happening in that entire region, one can actually see the fire being lit over there. And
I totally agree with you.
Yemen is a very dangerous example of how things can actually go out of control. Although the UAE has backed out of this entire war and they've kind of pulled out of it, but it's still a very fractured area with regards to this thing. And even if the war stops today, it's going to take years and years for stability to come into that.
I have one fear, Adi. I have one fear. You see, notwithstanding the development which is taking place, because UAE is occupying a space of as a frontline space of development and progressive nation state today in the world. My only fear is that it's already enjoying the perks and privileges being given by China very discreetly. It should not become a linchpin of China. If it becomes, then all these accords, Abraham Accord and what we have gone and negotiated, India has gone and negotiated with them. They're going to pump in a lot of money into J&K and other places in the country. And the kind of avenues we are getting as India as a launch pad to give a fillip and a boost to our trade and economy, perhaps it may face challenges. So we got to be very careful in future. What you said is correct, but after that, let me very quickly, keeping in view the timeline that we have Gulf of Aden and Somalia, ladies and gentlemen. Any amount of description about the two will still fall short, but very briefly, I would like to touch upon. You all know that the Gulf of Aden from Yemen lies another long-standing trouble spot, the failed state of Somalia, which has spawned the most serious piracy hotspot in modern history off its coast. Starting in 2000, after the collapse of Somali Navy to fight off foreign fishing trawlers, by 2011, it had spread almost towards Lakshadweep in the east and to Seychelles in the south. It took concerted action by global navies, including the Indian Navy, which even now it continues to dominate and discharge its role at relevant places to stem the menace, which today is largely dormant. But this dormancy should not be taken for granted. That is what I'm saying, that this particular corridor, it is most vulnerable and most susceptible to activities such as that of piracy. And therefore, ladies and gentlemen, without going further into details, I just want to highlight another important aspect, that Piracy triggers in the form of lawlessness, poverty, and unemployment. It remains intact in Somalia as in today, and the menace could recur if the naval patrol and the escort ships go away. So, therefore, the importance and the relevance of continuing the process of domination by the naval ships. The second point I wish to highlight here is that, in addition, the Islamic terrorism or the terrorists belonging to Al Shahad, if I am not wrong, Al Shabaab, who are allied with Al Qaeda, are based in southern Somalia and require a standing force from the African Union, supported by special forces from US to contain them. They continue to have these resources there. Sporadic attacks continue within the outside Somalia, with the latest one in Kenya in January 2020, and thereafter also there are 2 or 3 more which have taken place, including one in 2021. I am not able to recount, but something has happened. So off and on, you keep having these kind of attacks, taking the lives of the US servicemen. Indian Navy, ladies and gentlemen, had deployed a ship off the coast of Gulf of Aden since October 2008, and our commitment sets likely to continue and making it the longest operation in the history of Indian Navy. With that, ladies and gentlemen, we'll come to the most important part is the Iran, like I have highlighted earlier, and thereafter we'll go to the Chinese forays. Before I go and touch upon the Iran part, back to you, Adi, if you have anything to share.
Touching Iran is dangerous, sir. That's all I will say.
Okay, thank you, Adi. Just to save on time, ladies and gentlemen, I'll take you through the US-Iran tension. As you all know, that this is a agreement uh, which was sealed sometime in 2015, July or June 2015, with great degree of difficulty. Germany had played a very important role. There are permanent members in this. There is a European Union's involvement in this. That's how they had come in for an agreement as per the UN Security Council resolution. But unfortunately, this was all about the enrichment of uranium by Iran. And Donald Trump, during his tenure, had pulled back sometime in 2018. And thereafter, once Biden came back to power, he has given indications to revive this particular agreement because there are unrelated embargoes and sanctions which have been imposed on Iran, which is having a telling impact on the livelihood and existence, day-to-day existence of the people of Iran. So, conceptually and strategically speaking, this particular lowering of tension or diffusing the tension, earlier tension, by giving an offer, let's talk it out and revive the process. Whether it will go ahead or not, I don't know. Going by the indications, it appears to me that the talks are almost failing. But one cannot actually, lose hope on such kind of significant aspects because there are far too many issues which are interconnected. This year itself, in the budget allocation, as you know, India has allocated 100 crores of rupees for doing up a Chabahar port. We are looking up with high expectations to revive connectivity, improve connectivity along the north-south corridor. Although we are looking for alternate approaches from Chennai to Vladivostok and looking for other avenues as well. So let's see what happens. But the highlights of this issue, which I want to share with our viewers, is that the US had reimposed the sanctions, as I've told you, on the Iran's oil industry. They have gone through a real hard time. But the most important point that I wish to share is that India, out of 85% of the oil that imports from outside, almost about 70% of oil and energy and gas, they are imported from Middle East. And out of this 70%, 10% is to come from Iran. Plus, we had a special exclusive relationship, a special deal. So therefore, it will have a consequent impact on our this thing. But with this, US having given an indication of relaxing all the sanctions, perhaps things will start looking up. But what I wish to share also here is that there are large number of diaspora, Indian diaspora, and particularly almost about 15 million as per my count, but often you'll come across literature which says 9 million. It's much more than that, who actually remit 52% of our annual remittance. Annual remittance in terms of dollar is around $83 to $84 billion by Indian diaspora from outside. And the major strength is here. And Iran, because everything is interlinked, the Shia Sunni relationship, the turbulence, the peace, the stability, everything has got a direct bearing towards employment of these people, their remittances of money. And mind you, our dependence on the oil in this sector has actually gone up from 84.6%, 84.5% between in last 2018-19. It has gone up to it gone up to this figure has gone up from 80%, it has gone up to 84.5%. In terms of money, it means that earlier import bill was $87.8 billion in the previous fiscal year. This year it has gone up to 111.9 billion, less for the COVID-19 time. So therefore, you can well imagine the importance of not only Iran, but the entire West Asia on which we are dependent for oil. Also, along with our ladies and gentlemen, we'll quickly go on to the Chinese forays. But before the Chinese forays, let's see the China's Belt and Road Initiative and how it is being countered by Japan, US, Indo-Pacific Initiative. Ladies and gentlemen, as you all know, I'll just quickly give out from the reference material which I have dug up for our audience, is that the China's initiative based on OECD report graphic about submarine cables based on release document by AAE1. It has got rows of, the overland Silk Road, you know about it. And also it has got submarine cables laid by Chinese companies through the Indian Ocean, going through the Gulf of Aden, towards Suez Canal, also into the Persian Gulf. So, and all along the east coast of Africa, they have plans to develop them into a maritime Silk Road by improving the connectivity. There are major infrastructure projects which are coming up, but to counter all this, they also have, there are the first island chain, the second island chain of China, they are also being developed with initiating process of ALGs, helipads, then the airstrips, then infrastructure developments are coming up in a big way. Myanmar, Sri Lanka, all these places. But the counterpoints are effectively has been planned and put in place. Major infrastructure projects assisted by Japan are generally you find in places like Indonesia, in places like Solomon Island, places like Tonga, and places like Nairobi. And major bases of US military, SDF, and Australian military, they are at places like you have Indonesia, you have Papua New Guinea, and then Australia at number of places. Also, you have in the Japan, South Korea, Diego Gracia, you have at Djibouti. So such like counter and Chinese measures and how to counter effectively, these things are all underway in some way or the other. But what is of relevance is that Chinese string of pearls. Ladies and gentlemen, India is gifted with the geography and the culture. Now, because of this inherent endowment, I would say, we have very distinct advantages than China. I would say geography is a big curse for China. It is a big impediment for its growth because of its Middle Kingdom concept and the very location from where it has to start its lanes of communication, sea lanes of communication, traverse through Indian Ocean for its energy security. That itself is a big challenge. So, in order to, since India enjoys such a advantageous position in comparison to China, uh, the string of pearls actually it refers to a geographical theory relating to the network of Chinese intentions in Indian Ocean region. It refers to the network of Chinese military and commercial facilities developed by China in countries falling on the Indian Ocean between the Chinese mainland and port of Sudan. The string of pearls hypothesis was first espoused by a consulting firm of the United States of America in 2005, which evinced an expansion in China's civilian maritime commercial facilities along the Indian Ocean. This theory stemmed from China's perceived vulnerabilities of its energy security, which relies heavily on foreign energy sources. Last but not the least, this reliance on foreign energy sources will become more acute with the rapid economic development of China. Hence, the need to insulate this energy source and its supply routes from external turbulences. Ladies and gentlemen, you name Bangladesh, you name Myanmar, you name Sri Lanka, you name Maldives, any of these countries, they have developed significant infrastructure to support the energy or the safe supply of energy. China also has gained a strategic foothold. Places like Kyakfu in Myanmar, Chittagong, Sonadia and Pyara in Bangladesh, Hambantota in Sri Lanka, Gwadar and Javani ports in Pakistan, Djibouti in Gulf of Aden. These are the few names which I thought I must rattle out for the better understanding of our viewers. And it is emerging as a key potent actor in the power politics. Ladies and gentlemen, with that, you know it very clearly that Silk Road economic belt or the land route and the maritime Silk Road maritime route are under the heads of China's One Belt and One Road initiative, in which China, um, uh, going by what has been presented and projected, has launched the BRI project all over the world. It consists of 120 countries, countries in Africa, countries in Eurasia, countries in Asia itself. It covers almost about 60% of the world population, and it's a high percentage of GDP of the world also. But how successful it is going to be is a question which each one of you can actually answer. As per my analysis and research, the BRI project has not taken off the way they had intended. It started in 2013, as you know, and before that, the maritime, I would say that the string of pearls had started off in 2008. But the many nations which are up against China raise their hands. They have fallen into the debt trap, because of which it is showing signs of regression rather than progression in the very concept of Xi Jinping. So, how has India actually reacted or responded to this? India has gone in for a concept known as Indian necklace of diamond. Now, what is Indian necklace of diamond? This particular concept, after China started the string of pearls in 2013, sorry, BRI in 2013 and 2008, they started the string of pearls. You see, India has gone about in developing a relationship to counter this particular movement, which is known as Necklace of Diamond in the year 2015 to 2018. It is called as Necklace of Diamond to counter China's string of pearls. Ladies and gentlemen, those aspiring students, prospective candidates for civil services and CDS, who keep asking me questions, it was basically to regain entire control of Indian Ocean in our own backyard. This is not the end all. There are many things. I'll just share it with you. Increase in India's political and economic influence, as also to control more than 80% of global seaborne trade in oil transiting through Indian Ocean choke points, and also to keep a check over Pakistan and China activities in the Indian Ocean region. Besides that, we also have another project which is known as Project Mosam. Now, what is Project Mosam? Ladies and gentlemen, Project Mosam is based on the concept of cultural and economic projects to connect and strengthen our relationship with 39 countries in the Indian Ocean region. This was started in the year April 2014 by nobody other than the present incumbent. The highlights of this are this is centered around India's cultural missions, cultural programs, and cultural events. But more than this, let's take a quick look at the 39 countries. Which are the 39 countries India is making use of to develop the concept of Project Mosam so as to effectively counter and dominate the Indian Ocean, counter the Chinese domination, and improve our footprint? Which are these nations? We have quickly, so that our viewers also can get a grasp or a sense of the things. It has got Bahrain, Bangladesh, Cambodia, China. I'm saying China, not essentially in China per se. Beijing, we have our embassy. So the concept is being applied there also selectively in a incremental manner. Comoros, Egypt, Eritrea, Reunion French Department, Indonesia, Iraq, Iran, Jordan, Kuwait, Kenya, Lebanon, Madagascar, Malaysia, Maldives, Mauritius, Mozambique, Myanmar, Oman, Pakistan, Philippines, Qatar, Singapore, Sri Lanka, Saudi Arabia, Seychelles, Somalia, South Africa, Sudan, Syrian Arab Republic, Indian Republic of Tanzania, Thailand, Turkey, United Arab Emirates, Vietnam, and finally Yemen. With that, the Indian string of flowers I have explained, put together, we have an effective network of domination to deny expansion of the footprint of China in the backyard of India. Besides that, also we have undertaken India's blue revolution, we call it the blue economy. There are ports or the naval bases like you must have heard, but it is not being publicized. But I find it in the open domain. There is a naval base which has come up in Assumption and Agalega Island for monitoring the Mozambique Channel. So similarly, small islands which are being taken over by India, even in Maldives, we have taken over to improve our reach of surveillance capability. Also, under the head of Sagar, that I a little while back I covered 5 years ago in Mauritius, our Prime Minister had explained this Sagar, the concept of Sagar's security and growth for all in the region, and that is the creed we follow to our east now even more. In response to geopolitical forces, ladies and gentlemen, multilateral approaches such as free and open Indo-Pacific, led by US and Japan, One Belt and One Road project by China, Act East policy, and Sagar envisioned by India, in addition to Look West policy, which I am recommending that India, it's about time that we have to start acting West and invest our time and energy in that, is getting traction. Ladies and gentlemen, furthermore, you also would be happy to know that we have a concept known as Sagarmala. Now, what is Sagarmala? It was launched by Honorable Prime Minister in April 2016. Development, it means that development of India's 7,500-kilometer coastline, 14,500 kilometer of potentially navigable waterways in maritime sector. There are 12 major ports and 200 minor ports which are being developed with modern technology. The cargo traffic approximately 2,500 and cargo capacity of 1,500 metric megaton per annum is being transported. And with that, it brings me to the Bay of Bengal very quickly, just to respect the timeline that we have to work with. It is within the IOR, Bay of Bengal holds the key to act as the forerunner for enhanced bilateral and multilateral engagement. Ladies and gentlemen, the bay is situated between the vital sea routes and stretches from Sri Lanka up to the coast of eastern India, curving under Bangladesh, Myanmar, and heading south along Thailand, Malaysia, Singapore, until it reaches the northern coast of Sumatra in Indonesia. Ladies and gentlemen, the rise and presence of China has had a defining role in the last couple of decades. Sagar seeks collective growth for all with Project Sagarmala, looking into countries' port-led development. But most important out of all this is, I am coming to the Andaman Sea. Ladies and gentlemen, it is situated at the juncture of the Bay and the Strait of Malacca. Andaman Sea is poised as a geographic strategic gateway through which India can extend its reach further into the eastern Indo-Pacific. There is a huge base which is already, we have a command headquarters there, and the base is being further expanded, which will be keeping a check of all the maritime activities of the complete global trade, and it is further extending into eastern Indo-Pacific. Now, when we cover Southeast Asia next time, I shall be touching upon how the Andaman base is operating as a launch pad to extend our reach to Southeast Asian nations, be it Vietnam, be it Philippines, or any other country for that matter, and how effectively we have been able to dominate these places. So that is going to be in the next deliberation. It is very imperative to place mechanisms that would reduce and control conflict and facilitate dialogue and constructive engagement among the major actors. And all that we are actually demanding or chipping in from our side as a nation is to ensure that it is we are able to protect the rules-based maritime order, which is crucial for safeguarding oceans and seas to ensure stability in the bay and in the larger Indian Ocean space. And the implication of what I have just given out now will also be analyzed when we come to the India's national security next time, ladies and gentlemen. With that, the final takeaways, all I have to recommend in this is that our current focus as a nation state is onto the continental shelf, the continental boundaries, which is about 15,000 kilometers, be it in the western or along the northern boundary. And I would recommend that instead of ignoring this completely, the time has come wherein the government of India has to focus on the Indian Ocean, so as to safeguard our coastline, also safeguard the sea lanes of communication. Why? Because more than 99% of our export goes out from these ports through the lanes of sea lanes of communication and equal volume of our this thing comes into our country through these ports. So therefore, ladies and gentlemen, that brings me to the end of the Indian Ocean region. I've tried my best to do justice in such a short time frame. It's a huge subject. By and by, if you have any specific queries, you can contact me, you can send me mail, you can speak to me directly. It will always be a pleasure and honor for me to respond to anybody's comments or anybody's request. Thank you so much. Back to you, Adi, please.
Thank you, sir. Interesting discussion, because Indian Ocean is actually one of the most important areas that one of the world is recognizing today as a safety, as a security, as a very important cog in the world's global security. Because one of the things, as I mentioned earlier, if the Chinese actually break out into this entire region, that's pretty much going to be quite a tough challenge for the world to contain it back and push it back into the state that they are in today. Of course, we can discuss the South China Sea and the Western Pacific sometime later when we talk about China itself. The Chinese are trying hard to kind of develop their capabilities in this entire region. Of course, they have a very large navy. Capabilities of that navy is big in question, but the numbers are there. Having said that, we still have time to kind of contain China and keep it where it belongs at the moment, if I may use the word. Because if we don't, we will have a big problem. One of the things I'd like to add is, of course, we've got these two unsinkable aircraft carriers, the Andaman Islands and, of course, the Lakshadweep on the other side, which will help us in, especially India, in achieving a certain sense of security and order in this entire region. It also is a great thing to know, as you were telling, that the entire global focus is there towards the Indian Ocean region. I hope we're able to achieve our gains. Thanks, sir, for this incisive conversation with regards, as I said, Indian Ocean region. And the next time we will take forward into a little more towards the east when we talk about the Southeast Asian economies and the big challenge of the South China Sea. Thank you so much, sir. Till next time, Jai Hind.
Thank you, Adi. Thank you so much.